Struggling to discuss sex and intimacy with your partner?
Not feeling met, seen, or heard in your relationships?
I'm Janelle.
And I'm Andrea. We're two midlife mavericks sharing our own experiences.
Messy AF and no regrets.
With marriage, divorce, polyamory, and pleasure.
We've learned that when you're brave enough to figure out what you want and ask for it,
with partners, friends, family, and most importantly, yourself,
you'll feel more alive and free.
Question everything, especially your mother's advice.
There's no rom-com formula for this, but don't panic.
Being alone matters. Honey, I can't miss you if you don't leave.
What if your breakup could be your breakthrough?
Our podcast is for Bravehearts.
Anyone who seeks or has found the courage to confront their fears and limiting beliefs about breaking societal norms in the spirit of finding their truth.
If you're seeking permission to be brave in your relationships
and want to feel less alone along the way, we got you.
Bravehearts, I am so excited because we are getting to meet Andrea's boyfriend today on our episode. Kevin and Andrea were so gracious in articulating what tools they use to make their relationship work.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was amazing to to be on the podcast with my boyfriend, who I loved so much, and it's just like such a it's awesome to go through and say, oh, why are things working? What works for us? You're going to hear our tools, our resources, what we did in the beginning, what we continue to do, why we pray before every meal, even though we're not religious. And why we have a suggestion box. So
yeah. So Bravehearts, you're in for a treat of I just think there's so much wisdom in hearing how other couples do it, because all of us have been taught things and all of us have to unlearn things, and all of us have different unique turn-ons. And Andrea shares some of hers, and listening to her gives me more permission to follow the desires that I have.
Yay.
So thanks, Andrea. Okay, enjoy. Hi, Bravehearts. Welcome to Permission to be Human. I'm Janelle.
And I'm Andrea.
And welcome to Season 6, How to Design a Relationship That Works. This is our second episode, and I am absolutely thrilled and honored to be interviewing Andrea and her boyfriend, Kevin, about their relationship. And this is going to be a really juicy podcast for me, because I'm going to learn a lot that I don't know about the two of them. And so I'm excited because I know the one thing I do know is that Andrea gives such a huge permission field. And for all of us listening, that we are going to get new permissions out of how she and Kevin are doing relationship together.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Permission field. I like that, Janelle. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
All right. So for a podcast for Bravehearts who may not know, Andrea Enright is 50. She's a mom, a polyamorous coach, a writer, a podcaster, and speaker who helps people figure out what they want and ask for it. Andrea likes to sing and dance and is a sucker for art galleries and garage sales, which all these things I do know. Kevin is 56 and is a digital marketer. He's fond of cooking, trail running, meditation, coffee, and croissants. They've both been married once before, and while they've known each other since 2013, which for those counting is a long time ago, they've only been dating since May of 2025. So we're coming up, like rounding into their 1 year. Kevin and Andrea are in a monogamous relationship and both live in Denver, but not together. So welcome, Andrea and Kevin.
Thank you.
So let's just start with you, Andrea. Can you give us more context about your relationship?
Yes. So here's the thing. So a long time ago in 2013, Kevin and I worked at the same co-working studio back when co-working was like, a new cool fun thing, right? And it was in Uptown, and we were in a mastermind together. And then I think we stopped going to that co-working space, and we realized that we were in some other kind of mastermind together. And then we kept in touch over the years, but only as friends and colleagues, like a little bit on LinkedIn. I helped him with his website. I wrote some copy for him, and then we circled back and I helped him with his resume. And then, I don't know, we would just chat every so often, I guess. Usually through LinkedIn, right, Kevin?
Yeah. Yep. Maybe a telephone call here and there when you were helping me with my resume.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's how it all started. And wow. then in, I guess it was the fall of 2024, my now ex-husband moved out. And I remembered that Kevin was very handy, that he knew how to fix things. And I was like, oh, I'm going to need help with that because I really don't know how to do that shit. And my husband is leaving. And so I literally reached out on LinkedIn and said, hi, I wondered if you want to do some trade. I think I'm going to need some things fixed. Like, do you need some help with your resume? And he said, okay, great. Like, let's Zoom and reconnect. And wow. Yeah, so then we did. And we Zoomed on like April 11th. And then, and then we had a good time talking. And I was like, oh, do you want to talk again next week? And then we did. And then we talked for every week for the next 5 weeks.
Yeah, because what I remember, right, Kevin wasn't actually in Denver at that. He lives in Denver, but at that moment he wasn't in Denver, so that's why you were talking on the phone. Yeah,
that was the context of the Zoom calls, was that I was in California for a few months, so we didn't have the ability to get together face to face if we'd wanted to at that point.
Yeah, and then he moved back to Denver in June, and we went on our, I guess, first date, and we went to a yoga class and had dinner, and that was the beginning.
That was the beginning. I remember that day. You're like, I really like this guy, but what happens? What happens if I meet him? What's going to happen? And then this is what happens. 9 months later, we're talking on a podcast together.
Kevin, do you have anything to add about that beginning?
Well, I think the beginning probably maybe gave us a bit of a head start that was like, it was unusual. But I think it was a good reconnect for us because we both appreciate really deep conversation. And so I think that was one of the things that we initially recognized about each other.
Yeah. And I think we weren't even texting then, though. Like, even for those 5 weeks, like, there really wasn't any texting until the very end.
No.
And it was nice because there just wasn't any pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It wasn't like this is a first date situation where, it's either going to go somewhere or it's not. Like, it was just two friends reconnecting. I was trying to remember when we had like seen each other in person, and it was, definitely before COVID, maybe 10 years ago, maybe not long after we left the co-working space and were part of a mastermind.
Yeah. And then just a little bit more about that beginning was that it was on our third date that I was like, we need to have the RBDSM conversation.
Yep.
And
Bravehearts, many of you know this conversation. We've done many episodes on it, but it's the relationship, like the intimacy framework conversation that Andrea and I both deeply believe in, where you can like set up like a clarity around where you both stand.
Yeah. So it stands for relationships, boundaries, desires, sexual health, and meaning. Mm-hmm. And now there's 2 more letters. It's getting a little long. Aftercare and trauma also. But yes, we had that on the third date. So how was that experience for you, Kevin?
I think it was unique. That was something that was different. I think it was great because we'd already developed some kind of a rapport around, our talking. I think that was probably the same date where we started talking about what would we want a relationship to look like. And I think a big part of that was, we had this blank slate, we had this empty container. So what do we want to bring into that container? What do we want to exclude from that container? And, I think it was really kind of setting the foundation and the stage for everything that's happened since then. And, in a lot of ways, we really still are having that RBDSM conversation. we dip into those topics on a regular basis, and so it's it's just baked into us at this point.
I love that. And so, Kevin, would you say, like, do you guys set up a specific time of how does revisiting that look?
Yeah, I think it's a little of both. We have regular Saturday check-ins to specifically set aside time to talk about the relationship and anything that that we might be thinking about or we feel like it's important, and we need to bring it up, and we need to set aside time just to focus on that. So like that happens, and then I think it also really happens in the moment, in the day to day. We've got several different other frameworks for relationships that we've talked about and we use, and different documents that we have going that we dip back into. So it's it's both structured and organic.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, that leads us right into the next question that I have, which is, what makes your relationship work? In the abstract sense. It sounds like, I say abstract, but you've got documents, you've got frameworks, you've got check-ins.
Yeah. Yes. Right. And I think like there's like, we've talked about this, and that is one of the funny things is that we talk about our relationship all the time. Like we spend hours talking about a relationship, not really on purpose. Sometimes we just start doing it. And I mean, part of that's the timing. We both know who we are, and we've done a lot of work on ourselves. Part of it is just compatibility, sexual energy and chemistry, humor. Like we have just a huge overlap of interests. And we're both incredibly intense. I think that's one of the big ones. But also what's really important is that there's no pressure at this point in either of our lives to make a decision. So about living together or about marriage or about kids or anything that can sometimes make you think, I have to decide right now what's going to happen in the next 2 years. And I think that freedom really allows us more flexibility and ease.
So what I'm hearing with that is, you're both in your 50s, so more kids is off the table, and whether you want to get married or not, like that's not a decision that's like driving you in any way. Living together might be a question, but it's not. It's there's no pressure to live together or not live together, and it gets to be an ongoing conversation. So it's what it sounds like is you're just like kind of in the present with this relationship a lot.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's certainly, we have shared goals for the future, but it's something that we're really, to brag a little bit, I feel like we're really good at being very deeply connected in the present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we realize that we don't spend time on screens much. And so, very rarely are we both, I think we can just like a couple times have we both been in bed sitting on our phones. And we haven't watched any movies or TV. Like we keep trying to have a movie night and it keeps failing.
Yeah, I still laugh because sometimes we'll be in conversation, we're making dinner, we're talking about something, and some question comes up. And I think the habit that I have in any other context is like, okay, I'll reach for my phone and try to find an answer to that question. And like that just doesn't really happen, which I think is funny.
So like what are some of the frameworks and skills that you have?
I mean, I think one is that we use Brené Brown's framework for like assessing the amount of bandwidth we have at any given moment when we come together. So, we do that probably a few times, not always, but a few times a week. And so we'll say, okay, what percentage are you at? Like, how much do you have left today? Right. Maybe one of us has 70, one of us has 30. We're like, okay, so I'll make that up for you. Right. Or maybe we're both at 70, or maybe we're both at 30, in which case probably shouldn't do any heavy lifting tonight.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Are there others?
Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, I think nonviolent communication is one of the things that we talked about the other day, which I think we probably don't follow it to the script because it's pretty structured in the way that the interactions are laid out. But I think we probably honor the spirit of it. So I think that's been a big one for us too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we also, it's kind of started out as this joke, but we now have a suggestion box.
Oh my gosh. Tell me more.
Yeah, I don't know what you had I know. Like Kevin had some kind of check-in. He's like, oh, I said, do you have any check-ins on Saturday? And he's like, yeah, but I forgot what it is. And he's like, maybe we should have like a box so I can like put it in so I don't forget. And then we're like, oh yeah, let's make a suggestion box. Because early on in the relationship, he was like, oh, I've been told that it's really good if a couple can build something together. And at that time I was like, oh, what should we build? Like maybe we should build like a birdhouse or a treehouse or a house or a boat or all these things. And like we never landed on anything because it didn't make sense. But now we've built a suggestion box. And so we've covered it in brown paper and we're decorating it with different like ribbons. And so
and where does it live?
Right now it lives at Kevin's house. But
okay.
Yeah, but really it's up for anything, right? It can be like, you know, hey, would you stop leaving your towel on the floor? Or it could be, I need to talk about impermanence this Saturday.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I love this. So tell me a little bit more about these check-ins where like, so like you drop things into the suggestion box and then on Saturdays you have a check-in and then someone checks the suggestion box or there might be something else. What is the...
Yeah, I think it's two different things, although it may end up actually becoming merged into one. But when we first started talking about, you know, creating this conscious container that looks like our relationship, a big part of that was, you know, safety and you know, being transparent and having really good communication skills. And because we don't live together and we don't see each other every single day, then the Saturday check-in becomes it's a fail-safe in a way, right? Like nothing is gonna get forgotten that needs to be talked about in the relationship. And so, it's kind of the sacred time where we dig into that space and anything that needs to be brought to light.
Yeah. And I mean, I think something that I probably learned from you, Janelle, and probably Damasa too, is like that at our 1 month, I was like, we need to have a ritual. Like it seems very important that we have a ritual. And so we sat down and I got a candle and we both brought a poem or a quote and we set our intentions for the relationship. And I think that really just like set the stage for giving reverence and meaning to our relationship and what we wanted it to be. And something else we did on the first date, which is really so weird. I mean, I never do. I mean, I don't know if I've ever done this any other time, but we were sitting at Uno Mas, you know, in the taco place, like, and we were sitting like the place was packed, right? And we were sitting in this table right in the middle of like the walkway, right? So we were like surrounded by people and it was very loud. It was right after yoga class. And I don't know why I thought about doing this, but I decided, I'm just like, oh, let's pray. And so we prayed. We have a prayer that I've been doing with my family for a long time where it's like, you know, thank you for our food. Thank you for our family. Thank you for our friends. Thank you for this moment. Namaste. Very simple. And so I did that then. And then it just became our thing. So we literally pray before any time that we eat together. And we just are grateful for, you know, it can be fun. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's reverent. Sometimes it's short. Sometimes it's long. Sometimes it's a joke. And we often, like, if we have 3 meals together, we're praying every time we sit down to eat. And we're like, okay, what should we talk about now? But there's always something to be grateful for.
It's always a prayer first.
Yeah, it's a gratitude practice, but it's also an appreciation practice for each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is good for me because I'm an introvert. So like I think of things inside of my head, but I don't always say them. And so that's like a perfect place for me to, you know, to share something that, you know, maybe it would have gone unsaid that day. Probably wouldn't have gone unsaid for multiple days in a row, but like to be able to have that affirmation between the two of us is like, it's big. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And then Kevin, it's so interesting to hear you say that, you know, you're an introvert. Andrea's the extrovert, right? And yet just that the two of you have found the balance for the two of you to each be able to express in the way that's natural for both of you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's another ongoing conversation as well. You know,
Yes.
I think just in the context of how do we communicate better. But yeah, like there's never really been like a stumbling block around that one, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We also do a lot of eye gazing, like way more eye gazing than I've ever done in another relationship. And, whereas we talked about it on some of our Zoom calls originally, and it felt kind of intimidating. Now we don't plan it. It just happens spontaneously.
Mm. So I'm hearing so much, overlap between the two of you, right? Whether that's the grace of the timing that you're both in your 50s, where you are in your life. But I'm curious, what is this relationship together and with yourselves? Because I'm guessing you're both learning a lot about yourselves in this relationship. But what were you taught about relationships that you had to either, that you brought into this relationship, or that you had to unlearn for it?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, I think, we both grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. I think it was, a lot of it is what I wasn't taught, right? Like, I got married when I was in my 20s. I think my sense at that point was like, if you love somebody, then like that's enough. Like that can be enough to sustain a relationship. But it just isn't. And like I didn't have a lot of self-awareness at that time. Didn't have really any tools. I mean, Brené Brown wasn't around back then, but whoever the relationship expert was, like I couldn't have tapped into that knowledge. So I just was, sort of this, Midwestern guy with good manners, and thought that if I fell in love, then the white picket fence and everything else would fall into place afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when I first asked him this when we were talking about the script, I said, so what were you taught about relationships? And the first thing he said was not enough.
Yeah.
Which I think is
That's such a great answer.
right? Like clearly not enough. Yeah. And I think I was just taught like that mind reading was a thing, and you should know what your partner wants, and divorce means giving up, and never go to bed mad, never sleep apart, and a lot of cultural conditioning with perfect television couples. And I think also just like that I should attune to the other before attuning to myself. And this is something I'm remembering now, Kevin, that we talked about really early on. Like my fear was like, I don't want to lose myself in this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
that was just a big we have to make sure and keep our individual selves. And I think we were both aware of that from the beginning. So that it was really high on our priority list to make sure that happened.
Yeah, for sure. I remember that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that is great about our relationship is that we both have self-awareness around, who we are, who we want to be, areas where we might want to improve. And I know that like we both own that. So we don't have to worry about each other from that standpoint, but we can still like lean into supporting each other, knowing that our partner is owning that part of themselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's coming up for me in listening to the two of you, I just have this like warm sensation of like melted honey, because like I have been with Andrea as she and I have like worked so hard to learn the skills that you guys are talking about that are now living and putting into place. And just how painful a relationship is when you don't have those skills. And then to hear like the two of you talk about like, oh, here's the communication skills, here's the sovereignty, here is like the boundaries and the desires and the meaning and the check-ins, all of these things, then suddenly it sounds like there's a lot of time for like laughter and play and fun, which is what I think everyone is looking for in a relationship, but we just, to Kevin's point, weren't taught how to get there.
Yeah, at all. Like, I wasn't shown, even though I was shown a good model, like, but it wasn't talked about. Right. And yeah, I think that's another thing though, that helps us, is that we were both brought up in fairly similar environments, like emotionally stable, financially stable, fairly we both had good childhoods. And so we're fortunate in that way.
Yeah.
So neither of us are bringing capital T trauma into the relationship.
So Kevin, is there anything that Andrea does specifically that really makes the relationship work?
Yeah, I mean, she's from the beginning, she's been, she's very authentic, leans into the relationship. One of the things that she did very early on, this goes back to the introvert topic. She had sent me a text and said that she was reading a book about introverts to try to better understand how my mind worked. And like, I still think about that all the time. The impact that had in the moment and the impact that it still has now is just huge. Yeah.
Was it Quiet by Susan Cain?
It was,
that you were
yeah.
reading?
Yeah.
Which I highly recommend for any extrovert out there who's in a relationship with an introvert. Right. That book is fantastic.
And I haven't even read it, so that was yeah.
Well, you know about yourself. It's the extroverts who don't know the introverts.
Yeah, that's really true.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And then Andrea, is there that same question to you?
Kevin is somehow able to receive whatever I express, like with ease and patience and understanding. Like even if it's hard to hear, even if it's unfamiliar, or if it's really honest. One of the things he does is like when we're in transition, like multiple times a day, or I mean, it depends, but if he senses my anxiety or if we're like we're not sure what we're doing next, he's like, what do you need? Right. And this is just such a simple question, but like, I remember the first time he did it, I was just like, oh, that's really nice. Like just asking me what I need. And at first I didn't even know what to say. Right. And even the first, for a while I didn't know what to say, but then I realized I can say like, oh, I need to talk, or I need a hug, or I need help with this, or I need space. And I think, he often just expresses gratitude for very simple things. Oh, thanks for coming over today. Thanks for dinner. Thanks for laying with me. Thanks for like just that constant. And at first a constant gratitude. At first I just thought, oh, you don't have to thank me for that. But it just keeps the gratitude going. Kevin has been very patient because I am really still in the middle of a divorce. Like I have not actually gone through with that divorce yet, but the paperwork is not done. But my ex-husband moved out like a year and a half ago, and so I still see him a lot. I obviously have a 16-year-old daughter that I am attending to a lot, and Kevin has been very patient with all of that. And what helps is that Kevin was a client of my ex-husband, who's a therapist.
Wait, let's go into that a little bit more. Say that again.
Right. So my ex-husband is a therapist, and 7 years ago when Kevin and I were talking on LinkedIn and Kevin was going through something, I was like, oh, maybe you should talk to my husband. He's a therapist. And so I referred Kevin to my husband. And so when we reconnected, he already knew my husband, and he respected
and vice versa.
Right. And my husband already knew him, which is also helpful. Kevin, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think on the outside it seems a little unconventional, but I don't know that there's a lot to dig into there. I mean, I've been in relationships with women that didn't get along with their ex-partner. And like that's so, it's difficult. It's difficult on the outside. I can't even imagine what it's like on the inside. So yeah, I have a lot of respect and empathy for Andrea in that regard, trying to be the best parent, best mom she can be. And that's an amazing thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just really appreciate that. There's a lot of last minute calendaring and scheduling that has to happen there that Kevin is very flexible with. So,
yeah. I mean, I think that goes back to the communication skills and the transparency and trust that we've built.
What's an essential agreement that you guys have that might seem strange to others?
Mm-hmm. So really it's that I want to be told what to do. Sometimes, right? I like he can boss me around, and I actually crave that sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I never would have thought that I wanted that, at least 5 or 10 years ago. And now that sounds really good to me.
Oh my gosh. So Kevin, I don't know if you know this, I'm sure you do. I remember, right? Like, I've done pro dom training. I've done a lot of like reading around dom sub dynamics. And when Andrea and I were at dinner, I don't know whenever this was, like last summer, and we just kind of figured out that Andrea wanted to be a sub some of the time. And it was this like, I think I like did like a little like high five, cheers, like, oh my gosh, we just figured it out. Like, this is the whole point of the podcast, was for us to understand this characteristic, actually about both of us, but specifically about Andrea and relationship, that was just so revelatory and so freeing.
Yeah. Exactly. It was. And then I just immediately like left dinner and drove up to his house, which was like a 45-minute drive from where I was.
Yes.
And it was like, and this was early on before like I knew it was okay to go to his house unannounced, but I had never done that. And so I remember walking in and he's like, hi. I'm like, hi. I have to tell you something.
Right.
And
you have something you figured out about yourself that you were like, I just want to present this to you. And then you didn't know what he was going to say. You thought it would be okay, but you didn't know.
It's totally true.
Like, this is something that you and I've talked about quite a bit. Like, the underlying part of that is that, and now I'm putting words into your mouth, is that,
it's okay.
There's freedom to be found there. Like, you don't have to worry or have anxiety around as many things. So if you're trying to juggle a busy schedule, spinning plates, like it takes some of that burden off of you. And conversely, it's a gift to me because like I don't have to mind read. When you ask for what you want or you give me space to make decisions, then like it's clear communication. There's no room for confusion.
Yeah, you listening, Bravehearts? He just said it's a gift when you tell that I tell him what I want or I ask him for what I want. It's a gift when I ask for what I want. So that he doesn't have to
what I
mind
also
read.
heard him say is, or you say rather, like you want to be bossed around and told what to do sometimes, which means that you probably don't know what he's going to say, but you're like in the context, he's got enough information for you to be able to say, okay, great, I'm just going to do it. And just so you're leaning back into it, right? It's not like it's like a free fall in every moment, but that you don't, like, he doesn't have to like say, is this okay? Is this okay? It's like, this is what we're doing. And then you just say, yes.
Yeah. And if I don't like it, I can say, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he can just like tease me about having attitude. Basically is what he does. So
We call that topping from the bottom is a technical term.
Oh, topping from the bottom. I've never heard that. I think we should talk about the teasing now. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the teasing.
I asked Kevin also early on, I'm just like, I think we should have more teasing. And I think he was like, at first you were a little like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a separate conversation than the dom sub conversation, right? Like my first thought was like, this could go really, really off the rails in a bad way. And then we dug into it a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really do like the teasing now. And I'm not someone who actually is good at being teased. Like I am actually notoriously bad at being teased. Did not know how to deal with teasing in high school when like my boyfriend's friends would tease me. My brothers did not tease me because they were taught not to do that to me. And so when people tease me, I didn't know what to do with it. And now somehow I just crave it and really love it. And I think it's because I trust him so much and I know that he loves me and I know that he doesn't mean it, that it's okay. But I just find it endlessly hilarious. So
can we dive a little bit deeper? You're saying teasing. So can you give me some examples or at least tell me a little bit more?
Yeah. We were unloading this artificial Christmas tree out of the box. And we were on his deck, like taking it out, right? And it was in pieces, right? And he just said, like, looks like someone's got some assembling to do, right? Basically just like saying that like it was my job to put it together and he was going to go like, have a smoke or something, right? And I just find these things endlessly hilarious, right? He's just constantly like saying, not constantly, here and there, just throwing those in. He has a really dry sense of humor and So do I. And so we're just laughing constantly about that. And I know he doesn't mean it.
So like
right?
essentially he helped you assemble the tree, what you're saying.
Yes, for sure.
But,
right.
But the content, like he still makes the statement, and the statement in this way makes you laugh really hard. And I want to like just like dig in a little bit more, because I'm going to throw out the word, right? Like this could be termed like misogynistic, right? In some of these phrasing, right? Like get back to the kitchen kind of thing. But what I'm also hearing is that there's such joy in play. There's not a truth behind the statements, and that you're actually, the metric of whether this is working or not is that you're just laughing all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Kevin, I'm imagining, and I would love to hear what you think about this, is that like you actually don't believe what you're saying. You're just knowing that that gets her really excited and turns around and makes her laugh.
Correct. Yes. I would definitely want to go on record that I don't believe what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, I think it works for us because we do have, I mean, this is another area where we have, we had discussions about it beforehand. We've got some boundaries and some guardrails. There's been, I mean, and the teasing goes both ways. It's a little bit different, the teasing that Andrea does with me, but sometimes we'll just sort of like shut it down for the day. It's like, okay, we've had our fun, but let's dial it back for now. There are areas that are, they're just off limits, right? Like it's meant to bring us closer. It's not meant to be passive aggressive or bring up, bring up things that we know are gonna be hurtful. So, it's in the spirit in which it was designed to be.
Yeah. I love that. I love that this teasing, even in this like taboo way, right, is designed to bring you closer. And it reminds me of one of my favorite books on intimacy, which is Jack Morin's book, The Erotic Mind. And there's like, he categorizes in this research project like 4 different ways turn on happens. And one of them is getting turned on by like the taboo and by like power dynamics, right? And I'm so like thrilled ultimately just to hear you guys talk about this, because like the permission you are giving all of us, including myself, listening, is that if it brings us joy, right, that gets to be the measurement, especially because the safety is there, right? The trust is there, like the love is there. And to someone else, like they might be like, what the fuck? But you're not doing this for someone else. You're doing it for yourself and your own metric is your laughter and your joy and the fact that you're coming closer together. And so, you're disregarding what society is telling you is correct or not correct.
Yes. And we're not usually doing it in public, although we will do it in public, especially in front of strangers, but we're not demonstrating this in a big way publicly. Because I think it would, like, there is some nervousness about like, oh, if like we've toyed with him ordering for me. I'm just like, could you just order for me? That would just be easier. Right. But can you imagine if you're a waitress at a restaurant and you come and the guy orders for him and the woman?
Oh my gosh. I just played this out with a client that I had where I went to a restaurant in Cherry Creek and I had my collar on and I was not to talk to the waiter at all. And so I would just be like looking at him. So like the waiter would be looking at me and then I would like look away. I'm like, oh my God. How did that feel? So fun. So funny. I was like, and then I would forget and then he'd be like, you forgot. I'm like, oh my God, he's not to answer it. We just like played with it. It was just like it was very playful.
That is so interesting. Yeah. And I kind of like it too. Like I definitely would enjoy not making the decision about what to get. And there's a little part of me that's like would be afraid that someone might think I was like there against my will or something if someone ordered.
Yeah. No, I totally played into it.
Like I'm being trafficked.
I highly recommend trying it.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Something to talk about on this Saturday's check-in.
Yeah. Yes. Totally. Okay. Let's see.
Okay. So it sounds like you guys get along like a lot of the time, but I would imagine there's things that you disagree with, or disagree on. Do you have a repair process for when you disagree?
I do remember telling you, Janelle, and telling Kevin maybe somewhere around August after we'd been together 3 months. And I thought, we really haven't had any conflicts yet. And like, this is kind of worrying, right? Because you need to know how to fight, right? And there has to be an issue. If there's not an issue, then is someone not expressing themselves? Is someone acquiescing when they really disagree? I was curious and concerned. But when I brought this up to Kevin, he said, Andrea, we have had conflicts. We've just navigated them so well that they haven't seemed like a big deal.
Mic drop.
It happens in real time. And if it doesn't happen in real time, it happens on Saturday, right? So there just isn't an opportunity for a conflict, a disagreement, topic to not get addressed and uncovered pretty quickly. And I think that, for me in the past, that was a place where, I probably stumbled in relationships, was there just wasn't there wasn't a dynamic in place to bring up something that was a problem in a relationship. And so, if it didn't happen organically, then it just didn't happen. And then over time, those little things build up and they become big things. And I think that's, that's what we've been able to navigate. Like it's, not there isn't anything that just doesn't really get uncovered quickly. And so little things don't have a chance to become a big thing.
Yeah. Kevin, something you say often is that I feel safe, right? You created a safe space. And this feels like the key to everything, right?
Absolutely.
A place where both of you feel comfortable expressing a difference of opinion or a disagreement.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the safety and being adept at communicating with each other. I mean, we can talk about anything at this point. So that gives us space and the ability to tease each other and to sort of dip into areas that might seem a little risky or a little taboo. But since we've got a foundation of safety in place, then it becomes easier to explore those areas.
Yeah. And I think something else we didn't mention yet is like that we're just constantly kind of like leaving each other gifts and like sending each other messages and leaving stickies and leaving heart stickers. And just like if he comes to my house for a few days, then he'll leave them in random places. Like he left a box of pistachio jello pudding on the top shelf of my my cupboard because we were talking about that. I didn't find it for like weeks. I think that constantly reminds us of the love and the gratitude. And that's, I still get just as excited when I find something now as I did in month 1.
Yeah.
So a question that I have, because I noticed, Andrea, that, you're a poly coach now, and in your last relationship, you were poly, and you and Kevin said you're monogamous. So I'm curious how you've landed on that and how that feels. Obviously, it feels good, but like, can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think that as we've talked about on the podcast, there is no, I'm polyamorous and I'll always be polyamorous. I'm monogamous and I'll always be monogamous. But it's a feeling, right? So in this particular container, I feel really devoted to Kevin and would like us to have a monogamous connection. Now, I don't know, that could change, right? That could change anytime, right? Maybe change for him, maybe it'll change for me. But I think I want this to demonstrate to Bravehearts that you can just honor wherever you are, right, at the time. And there is a notion that I think I talked about with Kevin a few weeks ago, and that just came up on one of my polyamorous relating circles that I have on Monday nights, which is that one of my attendees said, I realized when I had 2 or 3 people around that it just kind of felt easier because then if one of them disappeared, I still had 2 left. Right. And I almost related that to things in my house, right? Well, I mean, I have 3 hoodies. If I lose one, I still have 2, right? Like the more you gather, the less you value. And I don't think that's always true. I think polyamorous couples and throuples and any kind of polyamory, the whatever way you want to do it, can work out very well. But I do think there can be a dynamic which is created where you're not going super deep on one, and then there's something unhealthy that can develop. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it makes sense. And what I'm also, because I know you well, knowing is that, poly, you've always said, was a catalyst, right, for your own becoming. And like all the skills that you and Kevin are talking about, you learned because you were poly, right, as part of that journey. And so now you're getting to apply those skills that were useful for that context. I mean, this is, I think, one of the real gifts of polyamory is that it does require all these skills and communication to do it well. And now you're like, oh, I've got the skills. Now I can apply it to monogamy. It doesn't mean that they only apply to poly. They apply to any kind of relationship.
They do. And it's just so strange that polyamory really was the catalyst for my own self-growth and my own looking at myself and looking at relationship tools. For some reason, I didn't know about relationship tools before I started entering the world of polyamory. I mean, that's when I learned the relationship tools. That's when I learned emotional release tools. That's when, I learned how to have more healthy conversations.
Kevin, have you been in a polyamorous relationship, or how did you come across the tools that you're applying?
Yeah, no, I'm not. I would say that I've probably the last 10 or 15 years, I've been a serial monogamist. So, just run into those tools and, different places. I've been, curious about being a better partner. I've, had a therapist recommend a book or a technique, and it's just one of those things. Over time, I've gathered tools and tried to apply them in my life.
Great. So what I'm hearing, Bravehearts, is like the tools are the same. Some of us, as Kevin said so eloquently, like we just didn't know that they were relationship tools. We were just told get married and have kids, right? Like, and there it is. But actually, whatever kind of relationship format you're in, there are tools that work across them all. Is there anything unconventional that creates intimacy for you?
Yeah, of course. Like for me, there's a few things. What are you laughing about? So in the bedroom, I like to wrestle and tussle and push and pull and kind of physically fight. And
very primal. It's like your energy is very primal.
It's a primal urge. And Kevin is really good at bracing that and allowing me to struggle. And, we both kind of have this ebb and flow of fight, kick, wrestle, squeeze, and then we can go into soft, right? And then we come out of it and we go into hard, and then we go into soft, right? And if one of us needs it to be soft, then we just request that. But I think as Kevin wrote in the document, when we were, going over the questions for this podcast, he said, what is a little bit rare is that we can touch for hours with really no outcome except touch. And so there's definitely some, I would say, pleasurable pain inflicted on both of us on a regular basis. Anything you'd like to say about that?
You may not realize this, Bravehearts, but Andrea is, I don't actually know how tall you are, but he doesn't know you're smaller than me, but like she's pretty petite. You're a very petite woman. And Kevin's quite a large man, right? So that my question is like, is there a sense of being overpowered, right? Because he's so much bigger than you, that it's also it's like such a deep sense of, I don't know, fill in the word, like surrender or like being held, or like there's something for you that is.
Right. I mean, he's 6'2", I'm 5'3", like, and there's just an enormous feeling of being held, of being caretaken, of being completely wrapped up and bound that feels very good to me and like just, incredibly nurturing. And so, that is something that really works for us. And we're always exploring it and going down new roads and then backing out of them and then trying this and then trying that. And I think that especially in that arena, it's very critical that I am constantly practicing my own boundaries, because often something goes awry and I'm like, oh, something's off. And maybe he'll be like, okay, what did I do? Or what's going on? And I was like, oh, it's like I didn't hold the boundary. Like I knew that it wasn't good for me, but I allowed it to go a little further. And I didn't say something. It's not really a big problem. It's just something we have to discuss and then I have to be aware of.
Right. And what I'm hearing with that, and Kevin, I'd love for you to weigh in on this, is one of the way you can play rough, right, is knowing that she's got herself, right, that she does have her boundary. Because if Andrea wasn't strongly in her yes or no, then I would imagine it'd feel very unsafe to actually play rough.
Yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to trust and communication and, constant conversations about what we like, what we don't like, what worked, what didn't work, what we might have liked this week, but, maybe next week that'll change. And then, being able to also have those conversations in the moment. I mean, sometimes we'll debrief afterwards. Maybe debrief is a little too clinical. We'll have a conversation afterwards.
We'll circle back.
But we'll circle back.
If we don't have a hard stop,
we'll put together a PowerPoint. But I think, like in the moment, being able to talk about, like this isn't working right now. Let's change it up. Moving back and forth between being very physical and softness. Like sometimes that's, it's an explicit ask from one of us. And then a lot of times it just organically happens, which is interesting. Like that's, I'm still like very curious about how and where that comes from. That might be some of the woo and the magic that we talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We think we manifested each other.
Well, it seems like you did. Kevin, is there anything from your end that you want to elaborate on regarding like unconventional things that create intimacy?
Yeah. Andrea mentioned earlier that we talk about our relationship a lot. And I think that, that's not something that it hasn't been common for me, not at the level that Andrea and I dig into it. And so, I think that's unique, and I have a deep appreciation that we both can lean into it so hard.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like I think Andrew, you said he lives about half an hour, 45 minutes away from
30
you.
minutes. Mm-hmm.
30 minutes. And has there been times when either emotional distance or separation has actually strengthened your bond?
There's been times where, Andrea went back home to visit family a couple times. And so the first time she went back home, I think we probably only been dating, a few weeks. And so we came together, we had this really intense connection. We were seeing each other quite a bit. And then to go from that to, not really communicating at all for 3 or 4 days, or very limited communication by text was new ground for us. And so we talked about that when she got back, and kind of reimagined what does that need to look like next time if one of us is out of town for a while, so that we maintain this connection that we have. And so again, it's communication. I think it probably came up on a Saturday check-in, and then we adjusted for next time it happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when I was apart, Kevin said he kind of slipped back into. You said you slipped back into a mode of like just being alone because you were used to being alone.
Yeah,
and so just setting up just an agreement that when I go home and I'm gone for like 7-8 days, that let's see. Yeah, he texts in the morning and I reach out at night. Like, and that's just like the rhythm. And then we can stay connected, whether that's a text or a call, but just not going too long without connecting. I mean, right now we see each other, every 2 to 3 days. And I think, there is no normal these days. Like, I don't know, that's maybe a lot for some people, not enough for others. But that seems to work for us.
Okay, it's been so beautiful talking to both of you, and you've mentioned so many, different resources and skills and permission fields and unconventional ways of being. And I'm curious if you have any concrete resources that you would recommend to Bravehearts if they were looking to navigate and design a relationship for themselves that doesn't necessarily follow what they learned?
One thing that we started doing early on in a relationship was reading The Art of Receiving and Giving, which I think is a recommendation of yours, Janelle. So that's a good tool, has been a good tool for us, especially given the fact that, we're pretty tactile. We like to touch a lot. And then there's things like attachment theory, and we talked about nonviolent communication. It's stuff now that sort of seems like it's all the hot topics, right? Like, Esther Perel and John Gottman, and but it all starts to make sense when it's, when things click into place in a relationship and things are flowing. Then, for me, it was like the realization that, there's, these tools do work, right?
Mm-hmm. I think more and more often what I end up saying, or what comes up for me, and even when I'm coaching clients, is that after you've been with someone a really long time, there are grooves and dynamics in that relationship that are just so hard to crawl out of. And that's just time, right? That's not anyone's fault. That's just like over time, you're not changing them, and then they get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And so sort of the beautiful opportunity to start fresh and know exactly what we're going to do going in, and use those tools and be conscious, and is huge. And so now when we're together, if there's any kind of discord, it stands up. So it's so obvious if there's not like a genuine connection, right? And we're just like, oh, something's off. We have to talk about this. And of course we don't have a 3-year-old running around, and we don't, and it's much easier, right? We don't have kids, and we're also, not potentially on the brink of annoying each other because we don't live together. And so it's easier, but it does stand out instead of like there just being this like undercurrent of tension that I think can happen with a long-term relationship.
Yeah. Well, and even though there's only, 8 or 9 months worth of grooves at this point, like we've been, very conscious about what those look like. So, it goes back to what Andrea said earlier about like the conflict and what, why isn't there conflict? And it's like, oh, well, there is, but like we've created healthy grooves early on. So, we might hit a little speed bump here or there, but like, we quickly get back on track, and it's created this really consistent ease and flow in our relationship that that's just where we land at this point, which is it's really amazing to me, and so much gratitude for it.
Yeah, I'm just like so grateful for the love and the ease and the flow that I just didn't know ease and flow was possible in this way with two people.
Well, what I'm hearing is that even though, right, so for someone who's been, married for a long time, in a relationship, the grooves are deep, they've got young kids at home, right? Like, yes, your relationship might feel very aspirational and not present, but there are a lot of people in their 40s and 50s who are starting into a new relationship for the first time that are going to, I feel confident are going to gain some skills and resonance and new permission and ideas from listening to the two of you.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah,
this has been a good exercise for us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your hearts and your wisdom and your joy and your love with all the Bravehearts. So it's been my pleasure to be witness to the entire journey of the two of you.
Yay. Thanks for listening, Bravehearts. We love you.
Thank you.
Hey, Bravehearts, looking for permission?
Work with us. We offer Braveheart coaching.
Follow us on Instagram.
Meet us in real life at a Braveheart conversation.
Subscribe to our newsletter.
Do all this and more at our website, permissiontobehuman.live.